Hello and welcome to Northwest City Politics. Well, I'm here today. I'm Adam Schenck, guest host for Northwest City Politics. I'm with Brock Ray, and I wanted to foreground our conversation a little bit. Things really come full circle. Juanita Hoffey was a creator of Northwest City Politics. She's no longer with us. And Brock Ray, you have replaced the late Andy Hoffey, who was Juanita's wife. So it's an honor to have you visit here as New Hope's newest council person.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Adam. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I'm very conscious filling the shoes of Andy and recognizing that, yeah, I'm here in the place where Juanita created this wonderful show. Although some of she used to have chairs, kind of more lounge chairs back in her day. So we got a table now.
Yeah,
okay.
we've moved past the 70s style.
That's right.
And yes, we broadcast from CCX Create, which since 1982 has been a community media resource center where residents of Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park, Crystal, Golden Valley, Maple Grove, New Hope, Osseo, Plymouth, and Robbinsdale in the great state of Minnesota can produce their own cable television and podcasts. And we have video and audio production equipment and classes so you, the viewer, can CCX create your own show. And I'm Adam Schenck, guest host. I'm a New Hope resident, and I'm also a board member of the Meadow Lake Watershed Association, and I live in the north part of New Hope. So that's a little introduction to our show and me. Let's talk Brock Ray. Brock, LinkedIn, which is serious internet research, which is kind of an oxymoron, internet research, but nevertheless, LinkedIn says that you're a director of user experience at Troust Consulting in your day job, and you've been a design and marketing leader for firms and for various firms. I was wondering if we could start by talking a little bit about your background there.
Sure, yeah, like you said, my day job is I work in user experience design, and if you don't know what that is, that means I help to design software trying to ensure that it is exceptionally user-friendly for people. I work primarily in software for businesses, so this is software that typically, you run in your day job, you have to use it, you don't really get a choice in the matter, and so historically it's maybe not necessarily the best designed. It's not designed to be something that you enjoy using. Business software, we all have to use it, but my job is making sure that what we're creating is something that will help users to do their job better and will hopefully not be something that they hate using.
That sounds like something that might be quite useful for New Hope residents. The user experience of interfacing with their local government. Yeah,
well, and hopefully in my new role, I'm bringing some of the background around user research, around interfacing with people and trying to understand, hey, what is this work you're doing? What works well about it? What doesn't work so well? What could we maybe do better? That's a really important part. Typically, I'm coming in to an organization where I don't necessarily know what it is that they do, for their job, right? I'm not necessarily a subject matter expert in the industry that we're working for, but I work with them to understand, okay, what are you trying to accomplish here? What matters to you? And like I said, how can we make that better?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about geography. I live in the north part of New Hope, just about a block away from Brooklyn Park, near Meadow Lake Elementary. Mm-hmm. What's your part of town, and how did you end up there?
I live in more of the middle part of New Hope, right near Rockford Road and Winnetka, so very close actually to City Hall. It's a really short commute for me whenever I go into City Hall. That was the, well, what I'll say is this, my in-laws, my wife's parents, lived not very far from us, and so we were familiar with the area and have been in and around New Hope a lot. Our first house was a little bit further north in New Hope. And then when we went to buy a new house about 8 years ago, it was the area we were looking in, and our realtor found the perfect place.
Yeah, I have to say I had a similar experience. My house, I stepped into it and I saw this beautiful lake called Meadow Lake, and that's my backyard. And I do bird watching, and I'm just very, very blessed in that way. And that's why I'm part of the Meadow Lake Watershed Association, whose job is to promote the conservation of the lake and its waters.
Well, thank you for that work there.
Yeah. So, when we were talking before the show, you mentioned Florida, and I'm very interested in Florida men.
I don't want to be known as Florida man, thank you. As I mentioned before the show, my father lived in Florida, and I split my time as a kid between the Washington, D.C. area where my mother lived and the Orlando area where my father lived. And I went to high school in Florida.
And you must have spent time in D.C.
A lot of time in D.C. as well. Went to elementary school in D.C. D.C. is a wonderful, wonderful city. Beautiful, absolutely fantastic culture. The museums are amazing, and I highly encourage anyone, if you have the opportunity to be out on the East Coast, take a few days in D.C. Visit the Smithsonian, see all of the other historic monuments and landmarks in our nation's capital. It's an absolutely wonderful, wonderful space. One of the things I love about the Twin Cities, about Minnesota, is that I think in a lot of respects very similar to DC. We have some amazing culture here, some wonderful museums, both art and history and science, and more theater per capita. I don't know if you know this, Adam. The Twin Cities has more theater per capita than any U.S. city outside of New York.
That's awesome.
I'm a big fan of theater, so that was a really important for me.
You don't need to sell me on that because you're speaking to the former theater critic of Southside.
Fantastic.
Southside, I forget what the newspaper is, but I wrote, for about a year, I wrote theater reviews for Southside Pride.
Excellent.
South Minneapolis community newspaper. Yep, so yeah, I totally get your point about, the culture here. I have to tell this story because it's just so delightful. I went to a rock show at the Fine Line, which is, kind of downtown, smaller room. Great show, enjoyed it. And then I started looking to my left. I think I know that guy. And I was like, that's Justin. That's Justin Vernon. And Justin Vernon is Bon Iver, famous rock star.
That's
right.
Right.
And then I was so excited. I went around and I said, oh, you know who I saw last night? Justin Vernon. And everyone's like, who? I said, Bon Iver. Who?
Oh, that's too
And then
bad.
I finally found somebody who was like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
So,
very cool.
Anyway, I'm bringing a friend and my dad to Farm Aid on Saturday.
Wonderful.
Yeah, but
Wonderful.
but that's the culture piece. What motivated you to apply to city council? Because the opening, we had an opening,
That's
and
right.
then you must have seen the opportunity, and you had other people who also applied. Tell me about that.
Sure. Yes, unfortunately, with the passing of Andy Hoff in the end of May, there was an opening on the city council. I'd been talking to some folks, including city council member Mike Eisenberg, about opportunities for me to be more engaged. We've been talking about some opportunities of different commissions. City of New Hope has some wonderful commissions, Human Rights, Citizens Advisory Council, Planning Commission, opportunities for citizens to be involved. But when this opening became available, I had a couple of different people say, you should throw your hat in the ring, knowing my passion for public service. Service I think is really important. And so I said, okay, I'll throw my hat in the ring. And I told the council, I said, if I'm the right candidate for the job, great. If there's a better candidate, please, put that person in. I don't have any sort of major political ambitions. I'm not looking to move to St. Paul or back to DC. As much as I love DC, I don't have any interest in moving there. I want to give back to New Hope, right, and be involved and help ensure that we continue to keep New Hope a place where people have a wonderful quality of life.
Yes, definitely. So, what was the appointment process like? You must have done interviews. Were you speaking with Mayor John Elder? Were you talking with the other current council people, which includes Jonathan London, I believe, and Mike Eisenberg, like you mentioned? Is there one other person?
Kyle Coriel.
Kyle Coriel, yes.
Yes. So the process was an open application. There were a number of questions that were on that application. So like the other people that applied, I answered those to the best of my ability, and then every single one of us got to come in and have an interview session with the rest of the council. It was like any sort of interview board that you might have. I sat in a room with all the council members, and one by one they asked me questions that I answered to the best of my ability. And then I said thank you and goodbye, just like you would any other interview, and then found out a few days later that I was the selection.
Well, congratulations
Thank
from
you.
us, the producers and talent of Northwest City politics. We mentioned that your new colleagues. I wondered if we could share with our viewers the actual kind of like mechanism of the city council, because I've heard that some city councils have a mayor who has no power. So I know that Golden Valley is set up that way, but I understand New Hope is not, and that sounds really unique because New Hope is kind of like it's a sizable suburb with
22,000
people.
Yep.
Yeah. So we have 4 council people and 1 mayor. How do they work together?
Right. So New Hope is what's called a statutory Plan B city, which means that we are a city manager and council setup. So the city manager really acts as, almost think of it as the CEO of city operations, managing the day-to-day. That's a person who is picked for their expertise, right, and hired by the city council. And then the rest of the city staff report in to him or her. In New Hope, it is City Manager Reese Berthoff, a wonderful, wonderful city manager, and council then oversees the work of the city manager. Obviously, any budgeting has to go through city council. Any new ordinances have to go through city council. A number of other things that happen, but city staff is tasked with running the city. They bring forward recommendations. They, like I said, recommendations. They'll give us recommendations on what they think should be done. We will discuss and debate, and then vote on resolutions.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I was thinking of a park right near my home, which is called Meadow Lake Park, and we as residents were pretty frustrated in the past few years because the pathway there was not getting plowed. So a couple of us just had to email, and then I walk my dog regularly around that area, and I was like, wow, they really jumped on it. So I'm looking forward to a winter of being able to walk to the park, but also having city government that's responsive. And I actually have a side story with that. I sent an email to back when I had my commute. I was commuting by bike to Golden Valley. We had some real roadkill in the bike lane on Boone Avenue. So all I had to do was email and say, hey, there's a carcass at this intersection or around there. And, it was always very delightful to me to see, how responsive they were. So that's been my experience in part. What have you seen, as a resident and now moving into being a city council person working with our city employees?
Yeah, so what I'll say is this, over the past month that I've been on the council, I've been going around and meeting with the head of every single city department, and far and away, these folks are wonderful. The city staff is absolutely dedicated to ensuring that the city runs well, that we have good government, responsive government. They are 2A1 out there trying to do their absolute best for the residents of New Hope. Everybody's human. We don't always get it right. We're never always going to get it right. But the city personnel are absolutely doing their best to try and make New Hope a wonderful, wonderful city to live in. And, like I said, very responsive to resident concerns. What I will say is this, right? It's, I think all of us want government to be there to help improve the quality of our lives, but nobody wants government to be interfering either, right? So there's always a balance for what is government supposed to do and what is government not supposed to do. And that's, at the crux of a lot of the debate that we have in this country at all levels of government. What should we be doing versus what should we not be doing? So the city staff and the city council, not that I'm speaking on behalf of the entire city council, but my interactions with them tell me that we want to make life great for the residents of New Hope and the businesses that are in New Hope, the constituents that live and work there. That's not to say that we're always going to give you a yes to every single answer or every single question that you've got, right? We can't necessarily do everything that everybody wants. But that's not to say that we're not paying attention, we're not taking that input, that we're not, doing our best to come to a great outcome for as many people as we possibly can.
Right, and locally, we, the Twin Cities has so many suburbs which have their own city government. We have I think there's, depending on how large you define the metro, I think we have 60 suburbs if you kind of get into exurbs, and there's a lot of different models, and it is so interesting how different different communities can approach things like parks, road maintenance, snow removal, parking. Speaking of which, as me, when I take on a project, it usually comes from, wow, I think I could change this thing that's super annoying. I want to change it now. What are your priorities with New Hope?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you the same thing that I told the rest of the city council when I was applying, the things that I care about that I'd love to see. First of all, New Hope is a really well-run city. So there's nothing that to me is I'm trying to come in and fix something, or I'm not I'm not a single issue candidate who's coming in and saying I want to put a stop sign in there and that's the reason why I'm on city council. No. But big picture things that I'd like to see. I'd love to see us work to attract more Main Street businesses, right? The sort of thing that attracts people to come in and shop within the city. So bookstores or independent coffee shops, maybe a record store or a brewery even, right? Something to that effect, right? Not that I'm trying to single out any one of those items, except maybe a bookstore. But I'd love to attract those kind of Main Street businesses. The kind of, you think about a traditional, American Main Street, that idea of, I'm able to go up and down it. We don't really have that in New Hope. That's not the way that the city was designed, and not that it was wrong, but I think that people are really looking to support their local community, and I think having some additional businesses like that would really bring some extra vibrancy to the city.
Yeah, as I heard you speaking, I was thinking about how, like what the city of Robbinsdale has done with like their downtown, and all the way down to downtown Hopkins.
Right.
There's and then if you want to kind of go corporate, you can have Arbor Lakes up in Maple Grove.
Sure.
But I would much prefer to have something locally owned and crafted. You mentioned having a brewery. I love those ideas. There's a real challenge to that though, because you have to change, the local residents' habits, really, right?
Yeah, and what I'll say is this, that what I'd like to do, again, getting back to that idea of finding where is the right place for government, and where should government not necessarily be butting its head. There is a variety of things that we can do to, maybe attract those types of businesses. We have available retail space in the city. I think some really attractive spaces for businesses, and a really great group of residents that I have no doubt would be very excited to support some of those Main Street businesses, and the communities even around us, right? Crystal and Golden Valley and Plymouth, right? We've got those opportunities to attract people and bring them in. I don't think that government should be picking winners and losers, as they say, right? And saying
Right.
we're going to subsidize a particular business or something to that effect. But so that's my first priority, or at least one of my top priorities. The other thing is, and you and I were talking about this before, and you talked about your work with the Watershed District. I want to get more people engaged in local government, right? Local government is one of the areas where you can do the most good. You can really have an impact. You can get to know your neighbors. You can get to see, street level improvements and real improvements to your day-to-day quality of life, right? We all read our media feeds, and depending on the news cycle and the day and what's happening, and your own personal political views, you're either happy or sad, depending on what you see. The great thing is, and it's not that there aren't challenges, that there aren't sometimes conflicts, but generally speaking, in my experience, the people at that local level are all trying to do good. One of the things I told council when I was interviewing was that I always try to assume positive intent. And this goes back to my work, right, in user experience design and other creative fields. Is my job is to understand what people are thinking, what do they care about, what counts as success for them. Well, if you go into a situation assuming that the person's a jerk or incompetent or whatever, you're not going to be able to solve their problems very well. And so, for me, I'm always assuming positive intent. I say, why is this person coming with a challenge? What are they hoping to accomplish? At least until I'm proven wrong, I'm going to assume that this person is trying to accomplish something good. Certainly, at the very least, in their mind, they're trying to accomplish something good. And how do we, how can we be responsive and to the extent that it's possible for us to see eye to eye on something, how can we, be mutually beneficial? The third thing, and this might seem a little bit smaller bore, but I'm really interested in seeing more pollinator-friendly landscaping in New Hope. We have some really wonderful rain gardens that the Public Works Department has put in over the past few years. There's an initial program to help people bring rain gardens to their own properties, and I'd love to see even more of that. And the tree replacement that cities doing, right? So Emerald Ash Borer, any of those trees that have been taken away. There's a number of flowering trees that are available from the city to take the place of those trees that had to be removed, and that's really wonderful for pollinators too. But I'd love to see that happen. Now, I understand that there are people who are worried that that pollinator-friendly landscaping is an excuse for people who don't want to mow their lawn, and I understand that that's going to raise some hackles in some people. That's certainly not what we're talking about here. I think that there's ways to put in, like these beautiful rain gardens that are absolutely gorgeous using native plants, things that improve our stormwater runoff, right? That don't require the kinds of chemical fertilizers and additional treatments that can really impact our stormwater drainage, but that are absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, even though they're maybe a little bit more wild than people are used to. But that's not to say, just let the weeds grow wherever you want them to, right? I think obviously, like I said, going back to balance. There's a balance there, figuring out what that is, both in terms of being environmentally friendly and environmentally responsible, while also ensuring that we maintain a city that all of us believe is really beautiful, and the importance of that.
Brock, I love hearing you talk about it. I wouldn't say that that's a side issue. I love hearing that, because you reap what you sow, and I just a couple weeks ago I bought the native wildflower pack of seeds, and I tossed them to try to replace is it the mulberry plant? No. Anyway, it's the invasive berry tree that's come to dominate, my lawn. I worked really hard to pull all those, and I'm hoping the wildflowers will take to seed.
That'd be wonderful.
All right. So Brock Ray, it's been my pleasure to interview you. You're the newly appointed New Hope City Council person. We're very excited for what you can do for our city. Let's finish with a quick book recommendation.
Yeah. I guess I would, if you're looking for nonfiction, I'd say one that I've read in the past year or so that was really great was a book called Range by, I'm not remembering the author's name, but Range, but it's about the importance of being a generalist in a specialized world, and the idea that generalist knowledge, or at the very least bringing together different domains of knowledge, is where you get innovation, right? That if you're just specialized in your one area, you can know a lot, and it's wonderful, but it's hard to come up with something brand new because you need that analogous thinking, right? Where we're thinking from a different domain in order to create those. So yeah, I definitely recommend Range, and it's how to be a generalist in a specialized world, or something to that effect.
Yeah, that sounds great.
That's a great one.
You can figure out the author in the internet.
That's right. Go look on Amazon or preferably a local bookstore. Preferably a local bookstore. They'll help you.
Well, great. This has been a great show. Thank you, Brock.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you coming to Northwest City Politics, and we hope to have you again soon.